Path of Exile is a fantastic game with many layers, and one of the reasons it's so beloved by its community is the blunt nature in which it lays its systems out. In a lot of other games, we refer to this as a quit moment. Pressing P and seeing the giant passive tree looming over you like the memories of wearing that Like a Boss shirt in middle school. It can cause some to quit, those who believe that it would be near impossible or take an incredible amount of time to learn how to use it. But do you actually need to know what everything on it does? Well, if you ever felt like you hit a quit moment in Path of Exile, then this is the right place for you. Welcome to Path of Exile Isn't Hard. This is a series where I will be breaking down each system in Path of Exile that many consider to be too complicated or can be seen as a massive pain to learn. A lot of these systems seem way more daunting than they actually are, and finding ways to help others learn happens to be my specialty. So after reading new player feedback and talking to some of my friends who are no longer answering my messages, I have compiled a small list of things that they found issue with due to misunderstandings. So one of the first things that I heard from some people who weren't immediately intimidated by the tree was the thought that there were 7 unique trees, one for each character. And I'm here to tell you that is entirely wrong. The passive tree that you see is the tree for all the classes to share. There are not 7 different versions with different notables. The only thing that your class selection affects, aside from how much Quinn69 will bully you, is decide where in this giant passive tree you will start. Each section of the tree is divided into thirds based on the key 3 attributes of intelligence, strength, and dex. Your starting class will be based around either 1 or 2 of these attributes. Witch is located at the top and is a mostly int-based class. Shadow is in the top right and is a mixture of int and dex. Ranger is at the bottom right and is a mostly dex-based class. Duelist is at the bottom and is a good mixture of dex and strength. Marauder is on the left and is a mostly strength-based class. Templar is in the top left and is a mixture of strength and int. Scion is located in the direct middle and can branch out into any of those sections, so Scion stuff can get a bit weird and I don't recommend it for new players. Another thing I heard when it came to seeing this flowchart gone wrong is that they don't want to put in the effort to memorize all of it. And you absolutely should feel this way. I already made it through way too many years of education. Flashcards and Quizlets are now just my sleep paralysis demons.
I did a thing.
But you don't have to, and nobody wants you to. So now we go back to that previous section about where each class is located. If I'm playing a duelist, then anything on the top half of the skill tree is essentially my child, because I will be neglecting it. There are some rare cases and builds that you have reaching into a bit of everyone's candy bowl. But for the most part, if your class is at the bottom, you are going to stay there for 75% of your points. If this is your first time making a build or even playing PoE, just focus on what's ahead of you and plan by around 5 to 10 points. Now this is the brunt of the lesson here today, folks. Even though the other 2 things I mentioned are problems I have heard, this is by far the thing that makes people quit. And it's something that even casual players still struggle with, considering this is a huge barrier to entry into making builds. But I have the secret, the way for you to get your first build up and running and beat the campaign with ease. And the key is, nothing matters except damage, health, auras, and whatever your defensive layer is. This is like a test. Weed out all the nodes that have nothing to do with your build, then you can put your mental energy into choosing between the nodes that do help. So let's take this one step at a time. First up, and the easiest, if you see a notable that increases your HP, take it. Just as an FYI, these bigger nodes are called notables, because they do more notable things, and these smaller ones are just passive ones. Notables make a lot bigger of a difference than passive nodes. Also, in terms of health, there are cases such as Chaos Inoculate, where you want to replace health with Energy Shield, but that's a very specific type of build. Second is damage, and whatever buffs your damage. So for instance, if I am making a build where I want to hit really hard with swords, something like Cyclone, then I need to break down what will give me damage. So that means in this case, I would be looking for any nodes that increase my physical damage. If I'm using a two-handed sword, then any notables that increase my damage with swords or two-handed weapons. Anything having to do with attack speed or melee attack speed. Anything having to do with rage, since rage will let you increase your damage while hitting enemies. And if I'm going for crit, anything related to crit chance or multiplier. Now obviously this is crazy oversimplified, and there are going to be some other nodes that you're going to want to take, like Leech to keep your mana up, or Fortification to get really good damage reduction. That is stuff that you can take to solve problems as you go. That just gets better with time. Knowing when you need to take these problem solving nodes like Leech and Fortification will just come to you as you play and look at other builds. Third, anything relating to aura efficiency. Welcome to Path of Exile, where a ton of your damage and defenses come down to whatever auras you choose. What these auras do and what you will need will be in a later video, but you want to fit as many as you can get. Auras reserve your mana or HP, so at some point you cannot fit any more in your build, so 99% of all builds want some reservation efficiency to fit as many auras as they can. So if you see mana reservation efficiency, I suggest taking it. Lastly, we have defensive layers. Now again, I will go in depth on defensive layers in a later video, but the main ones you are looking out for are armor, evasion, energy shield, spell suppression, and block. You cannot and should not try to get all of these in one build. So instead, on your tree, you should specialize into one or two of these. Stacking defensive layers help you survive the most. So back to our tree attributes, we can also put defensive layers in there. Strength is related to armor and block, dexterity is related to evasion and spell suppression, and int is related to energy shield. If you find yourself on these parts of the tree, I suggest reaching for the defensive layer that fits your attributes, and again, double dip if you want to survive the most. Nothing wrong with going armor and energy shield, but if you try to stuff evasion in there, you'll be getting so little from all three layers that it's more of a detriment. Spell suppression and block are somewhat special in that they are used to pair with defenses like evasion and armor, but again, I wouldn't rely solely on them because they are just secondary layers. Along with this, there are what are called keystones, which are very powerful and giant nodes on the tree that often have build-defining passives, but can also come with some downsides. For instance, Iron Reflexes will convert all of your evasion into armor if you want a purely armor-focused build. Precise Technique lets you forego doing crits, but as long as you keep your accuracy up, you will get a big damage boost. If you're mana stacking, Mind Over Matter can let you take some damage as mana to keep yourself alive longer. These nodes are very powerful, but also can have some bad downsides, so I would suggest planning on getting 1 to 2 of them if you can, but going for more will require lots of travel points that might not be worth it. They are important, but not worth 10 travel nodes important, most of the time. Now let's talk about one more powerful part of your skill tree, masteries. When you take a notable from a wheel, then you can get the option to select a mastery, which is a big effect relating to that notable wheel. These can be incredibly powerful, but in all honesty, most mastery selections only have 1 to 3 that are actually good. Some ones that you will see a lot are treat enemy resistance as inverted, mana reservation efficiency, increased HP when body armor has no life mods, non-vol skills target 1 additional enemy, Leech is instant. Masteries are just kind of a mixed bag and very reliant on what your build is, so just read through ones that you can take and decide for yourself. And lastly, here's a few tips on skill tree etiquette that people use. If you are lacking a certain attribute at the moment, you can take the plus 30 in these sections which appear on the tree. But if possible, try to, at a later date, fix these in gear since skill points are very valuable. Along with that, when you are leveling, it is fine to take these nodes for extra damage starting off, but when you get into later game, to save on points, you can respec these and get the travel nodes instead. But I don't recommend taking those travel nodes to start, as respecs aren't too hard and getting damage or defense early doesn't hurt. Like I said before, some form of leech is almost always important as mana cost can be entirely solved from just 1 to 2 points. That's pretty much it for the super in-depth part of this video. If you follow these points, then you can absolutely get through the campaign with whatever skill you want to use, but later into maps you are definitely going to need a more solid game plan. I didn't follow a build guide my first few times playing, and it was incredibly fun to play around, so I suggest you do the same for your first build. So I hope this video has shown that the skill tree really isn't that big of an obstacle, and I can't wait to see you all in the next league. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe to see this series progress and my other videos related to gaming. Along with that, please make sure to go and follow me on Twitch. I am live every Wednesday and Saturday at 5 PM Eastern. Stay safe and stay sane, Exiles.